My suggestion, Piers, I should have paid.
Gold and sunshine, a Kent farmhouse overflowing with food, and a family who lived entirely on their own terms. The darling buds of May looked like the most blissful escape British television ever offered. But the story behind those idyllic scenes is full of surprises, near misses, and one moment that changed a 21-year-old Welsh actress's life so completely, she described it as an explosion.
No, I can't. I haven't got a swimming costume.
Your shorts will dry. Rely on the Spaniards so they do. Oh, come on.
Fact number 1, the rights were almost lost.
Why are they interested in Pop?
You pay interest, Ma. It's that they lend you the money to buy Bluff Court, and you repay them so much a month plus interest.
Before a single frame was filmed, The Darling Buds of May came extraordinarily close to never becoming a British television series at all. H.E. Bates published the first Larkin novel in 1958, and within a year Hollywood had already adapted it, in a considerably more sanitised version called The Mating Game, starring Debbie Reynolds and Tony Randall.
Mr. Larkin, please listen to me. I am here to investigate you.
The television rights then passed through various hands over the following decades, at one point being held by an American television company, before H.E. Bates's son, Richard, stepped in. He reacquired the rights in 1989, took on the role of executive producer, and specifically sought out a British production that would honour his father's original vision, rather than dilute it for a transatlantic market. Without that intervention, the version of the Larkin family that eventually became a national phenomenon might never have existed in its British form. Richard Bates was protective of the material in a way that shaped every subsequent creative decision, insisting on the Kent countryside setting, the period authenticity, and the warmth of the original novels. The show that 20 million viewers fell in love with in 1991 was, in a very real sense, a son keeping faith with his father's work against considerable commercial pressure to do otherwise.
A few weeks ago, I was a junior tax inspector. I lived in digs. I didn't have anyone.
Fact number 2. Kent was hiding a secret.
Children put up those ducks, I'm sure of it. A couple of girls, look like yours.
No, couldn't be mine, sir, no. No, mine are all at home doing their homework.
The Darling Buds of May is set in the Kent countryside of the 1950s, and unlike some British shows that quietly film their exterior scenes somewhere entirely different, this one really was filmed in Kent. The village of Pluckley and the surrounding area served as the primary location, with Home Farm in Pluckley providing the Larkins' residence. All 4 main buildings of the Grade 2 listed farm were used: the farmhouse itself, an oast house, a Tudor barn, and a cart lodge. The Black Horse pub in the village was renamed the Hare and Hounds for filming. The church, the school, the local cottages, all genuine Pluckley locations. Here's the hidden detail. Almost no filming was ever done inside the farmhouse itself. The interiors, every scene of Ma cooking, the family gathered around the table, the kitchen chaos, were all shot in a Yorkshire television studio. Pluckley provided the exterior shell, and Yorkshire provided everything inside it. The farmhouse that viewers assumed they were seeing from the inside was a studio set hundreds of miles away. The farm became so associated with the show that it was eventually renamed Darling Buds Farm by its new owners and converted into guest accommodation. People now stay overnight in a location that was always from the inside, somewhere else entirely.
Hey! Come on, you lot, no slacking. There's plenty of time for larking about.
Fact number 3, the strawberries were Dutch.
Marvellous, Gymkhana. All you're doing. And this party has made me very happy.
The production of The Darling Buds of May made a deliberate creative choice to use locally sourced food wherever possible. This was not incidental. The abundance of the Larkin table, the overflowing bowls and baskets and plates was central to the show's visual identity and its emotional appeal. In early 1990s, Britain, at a time of genuine economic recession, watching a family eat with that kind of extravagant, unembarrassed joy was itself a kind of balm. The food had to look real, plentiful, and genuinely English, which makes it all the more delicious that one of the show's most iconic visual elements was a fraud. The strawberries, those gleaming, perfectly ripe strawberries that appear repeatedly as a symbol of the Larkins' abundant rural life, were not English at all. They were imported from Holland because English strawberries were not ripe at the time of filming. The most quintessentially English fruit in a show about quintessentially English abundance was shipped in from the continent.
Had a rather heavy lunch. Must have dozed off. Still, it's lovely to see you.
H.E. Bates, who wrote with such lyrical precision about the English countryside, would probably have found this either deeply ironic or perfectly fitting. The show was selling a dream. Sometimes dreams need a little help from abroad.
They tell me you organised this whole bun fight single-handed. The thing positively went like a bomb.
Fact number 4. David Jason invented a touch of frost.
Très bien, merci, my old firework.
Reem, you speak froggy.
Yeah, well, I can count up to 10 and ask for Vin Rosé.
By the time the Darling Buds of May arrived, David Jason was already one of the most beloved actors in Britain. Del Boy from Only Fools and Horses had seen to that.
And the other one reminds me of Cliff Richards.
What, he looks younger than his years?
No, he's got one of them faces that you want to slap.
But what the show did for him was something different. It gave him, for the first time, the professional leverage to choose his own path. By his own account, it was only after the success of Darling Buds that a producer finally sat down with him and asked what he actually wanted to do next.
Is it sharp enough, mate?
Is he sharp? Is he sharp? Is it sharp enough for you?
Nobody had ever asked him that before. His answer was immediate. He loved detective shows and he wanted to play one. That conversation led directly to A Touch of Frost, which became one of ITV's biggest drama hits of the 1990s and ran for 18 years. The gruff, unconventional Detective Inspector Frost, entirely unlike the sunny, generous Pop Larkin, exists because the Darling Buds of May made Jason powerful enough to make his own choices.
Still, Pierre can buy himself a winner now, one that runs.
One role opened a door. He walked through it and found another role that defined the second half of his career. Without Darling Buds, there is no Frost. That is a chain of consequence that the show's producers almost certainly never imagined.
You come and visit us one of these days, eh?
I should like that, milord.
If you're enjoying this, and we're only halfway through, hit that subscribe button right now because we cover the full history of classic British television every week. And stay with us, because fact number 6 is about Catherine Zeta-Jones. And what happened the moment the show aired will genuinely surprise you.
Oh, Charlie. Me and Blenheim are really proud of you.
Fact number 5, Pam Ferris was a stranger.
Come on, out with it, old chap. I like to be fair and square in these matters.
There is no charge for baptism, Mr. Larkin.
David Jason and Pam Ferris, who played Pop and Ma Larkin with such warmth and apparent familiarity that viewers assumed a deep professional bond, were in fact complete strangers when filming began.
I'll take her up a nice moon rocket.
Don't you dare.
Jason has said that he had never heard of Ferris before she was cast. He didn't meet her at the read-through, he didn't meet her at rehearsals, he met her at lunch.
I lose track sometimes, what with little Blenheim and everything.
A chance encounter in the canteen that preceded their first proper working session together. What is remarkable is that none of this is remotely visible on screen. The chemistry between Pop and Ma, the easy, affectionate, completely unperformed warmth of two people who have built a life together, was generated between two actors who barely knew each other when filming started. Jason has said that Ferris was simply nice and easygoing, and that was enough. Sometimes that is all chemistry requires. Two people who are genuinely kind to each other in front of a camera, doing honest work. The result looked like decades of shared history. It was, at the start, barely a shared lunch.
Your mother is a very attractive woman, and I know these Londoners.
She's so saucy, Sidney Larkin.
Fact number 6, Zeta-Jones changed overnight.
You're not looking at me.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Catherine Zeta-Jones was 21 years old when The Darling Buds of May first aired in April 1991. She had some stage experience, including a stint in 42nd Street in the West End, and had made a film debut in a French-Italian production that nobody had seen. She was not famous. She was not particularly well known even within the industry.
I remember you climbing ladders with our Primrose.
And then the show broadcast and her life changed so completely and so instantaneously that she later described it in those precise terms. With 1 hour of television, everything was different. She said she couldn't go anywhere after that first broadcast without being recognised. The British press descended immediately. Her relationships in the early 1990s were tracked and reported with an intensity she had no preparation for. She was a tabloid subject almost overnight. What she did with that attention, and this is the part the story usually skips, was use it as leverage to get out of Britain and into Hollywood deliberately. She was acutely aware of the risk of being typecast as the pretty English Rose, and she made a series of calculated choices to avoid it. By 1998, she was in The Mask of Zorro. By 2003, she had an Academy Award for Chicago. The girl from Swansea who played Mariette Larkin in a Kent farmhouse ended up one of the most decorated actresses of her generation. It started with one episode of a television show on a Sunday night in April.
Charlie says the only way Peter can stay here and be allowed to work is if he marries an English girl.
Fact number 7. H.E. Bates inspired by real people.
All right then, dubious. Maybe Pop did accidentally get involved in the smuggling.
The Larkin family, their exuberance, their generosity, their cheerful indifference to tax inspectors and social convention, did not come purely from imagination. H.E. Bates was inspired to create them after encountering a real family of junk dealers in Kent, whose appetite for life struck him as extraordinary. They were not wealthy, they were not respectable by conventional standards, but they had a quality that Bates found both irresistible and essential. A complete, unapologetic commitment to living well on their own terms, regardless of what the world around them thought about it. Bates relocated to Kent in 1930 and spent decades absorbing the landscape and the people. The Larkins were his distillation of a particular kind of English rural character, one that conventional society tended to look down on and Bates thought was worth celebrating. The title itself came from Shakespeare's Sonnet 18, "Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May." It was a deliberate choice, framing these earthy, unrefined, magnificently alive people within the most elevated language the English tradition offered. Bates knew exactly what he was doing. He was arguing that the Larkins deserved to be in a sonnet. The television series made 20 million people agree with him.
You know Mr. Larkin?
Yes. We're just talking about having some fun.
Oh, good. We do like our guests to enjoy themselves.
Fact number 8. A Margot spin-off was refused.
Goodness. A neighbour. That is a bit of luck.
What's the trouble?
No idea. Just faded out as I was driving along.
This fact belongs to The Good Life, but its shadow falls across Darling Buds too, and it says something important about how the most beloved shows protect their own legacies. After The Darling Buds of May ended in 1993, ITV was understandably reluctant to let the franchise go. The show had been the highest-rated programme on British television during its run, and the audience's attachment to the Larkin family was intense and genuine. Various discussions took place about how to extend or revive it. None of them came to fruition, partly because of the natural conclusion of the story as adapted from the novels, and partly because the key cast members were not interested in perpetuating something they felt had reached its natural end. The discipline to stop while a show is still beloved rather than continue until it is merely tolerated is, as we have noted before, one of the rarest qualities in British television. The Darling Buds of May exercised that discipline. ITV eventually returned to the Larkin family in 2021 with The Larkins, starring Bradley Walsh and Joanna Scanlon, a respectful reimagining that attracted its own audience without attempting to replace the original. The original, wisely, was left alone.
No hanky-panky with foreigners in this house. Thank you very much.
Fact number 9. The recession made it perfect.
16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4.
The Darling Buds of May debuted on ITV in April 1991. Britain was in the grip of a serious economic recession. unemployment was rising, the property market had collapsed, and the general mood of the country was one of considerable anxiety. Into that climate arrived the Larkin family, abundant, warm, debt-free by choice, magnificently indifferent to financial convention, and surrounded by the most beautiful countryside England had to offer. The timing was not accidental. ITV had specifically developed escapist programming in response to the recession, and Darling Buds was the jewel of that strategy. What nobody had quite calculated was the depth of the response. The show didn't just distract people from their anxieties, it offered them something to believe in. The Larkin philosophy that life should be lived fully, that food should be shared generously, that the taxman is an inconvenience rather than a reckoning, and that the English countryside on a summer afternoon is essentially paradise, resonated with an audience that was hungry for exactly that kind of reassurance. Perfect entered the national vocabulary because it captured something people desperately wanted to feel about their lives. The show gave them permission to feel it, briefly, every Sunday evening. That is not a small thing.
The survival of the human race is at stake, Pop. We're demonstrating while others accept atom bombs. Peace in our time.
Fact number 10, the author's widow was an extra.
What?
You and me having a swim. I could give you a lift on my Vespa.
Here is the detail that brings the whole story full circle, and it is a genuinely beautiful one. H.E. Bates died in 1974, 17 years before his most famous creation reached its largest audience. He never saw the television series, never witnessed the 20 million viewers, never heard "perfect" become a national catchphrase. His widow, Marjorie Bates, was still alive when filming began in 1990. She visited the location in Kent during production and ended up appearing as an extra in one of the scenes. Think about what that means for a moment. The woman who had lived alongside the writing of the original novels, who had watched her husband pour the English countryside he loved into those pages, who had seen the books published and read and adapted and protected across decades. She walked onto the set of the television version and appeared, briefly, in the world her husband had imagined. Nobody made a great fuss of it. It was not a publicity moment. It was simply a widow visiting a place where something her husband had made was being brought to life and being invited, quietly, to be part of it. It is as good an ending as any of the novels themselves could have provided.